Yes.
In mental capacity, where was he? What's
He was
going to be
out
the
of
case?
his mind. He was not in his right mind. Let me spell that out. That means that I'm doing something, but I don't know the wrongfulness of what I'm doing because I'm out of touch with reality. That's what insanity is.
All right. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. All praises to the Most High. The man that you just saw is the lawyer for our dear brother, Rodney Hinton Jr., Mr. Clyde Bennett. If you've been following this channel, then you know the situation of Rodney Hinton Jr., who is alleged to have killed a Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy in Cincinnati, Ohio, after watching the video of the assassination of his son, Ryan Hinton. Now, that is his lawyer, Clyde Bennett, giving a very questionable interview, in my opinion, to the news before the indictments even came out. Now, I'm going to play the rest of that interview, but I want to share a scripture with you. Proverbs 29:11 says, "A fool uttereth everything he knows, but a wise man keep it until the end." Now, I'm not calling Mr. Bennett a fool, but I have never seen a lawyer in any capacity go on live television and actually talk about his plans for defense for a client, especially of a case of this magnitude. But let's watch the rest of that video so we can break it down how, in my opinion, once again, I'm not a lawyer, neither do I play one on TV, but in my opinion, in my 30 years of dealing with the criminal justice system, firsthand, I have never seen this done, or any other national case. I have never seen this done. Just check out this live interview, once again, on local news, talking about his plans for the defense of our dear brother.
So ahead of the indictment, I sat down for a one-on-one interview with Hinton's defense attorney, Clyde Bennett. We talked about everything from the deadly shooting of Hinton's son and his mental state at the time of the deadly crash to Bennett taking him on as a client.
All right, first of all, let's stop there. She said ahead of the indictments even being released, he sat down for an hour-long interview with this lady, pretty much spilling everything which he intends to do, or which he doesn't intend to do, to not only the world, but also to the prosecution who was trying to put Mr. Rodney Hinton to death.
What was going on with him when he was behind the wheel? Is it your contention that, do you admit that he was behind the wheel? Because officers said that he was behind the wheel. There's video of him behind the wheel, and that they took him out and, in fact, triple checked to make sure that he was the one that was behind the wheel.
All right. Okay. Let's stop there. You see how this lady is pushing the narrative really, really hard, that officer said he was behind the wheel. Video shows he was behind the wheel, and officers had to triple check to see if he was the person that was behind the wheel. Now, you remember the girl on Facebook, LaShawn Hankerson, saying that she was there and a lady was driving the vehicle. And so why would they have to triple check if he was the only person in the vehicle? And so that leads me to believe, once again, there's some credibility to that girl's statement, and they're trying to push that narrative. Police said it, video said it, they doubled and triple checked, but notice they never said any witnesses said it. But let's continue with, once again, I think this is a mistake on the lawyer Clyde Bennett part.
Based on my acquaintance with this case, it appears that he was a person that was driving a car.
Okay.
Based on his acquaintance with the case. Now, what do you mean by your acquaintance? Like, I'm acquainted with the case. You know, everybody's acquainted with the case, but you're going to hear him say that he hasn't even received any evidence. But based on, I guess, a hunch, he's going to say he was behind the wheel of the car.
Yes.
In mental capacity, where was he?
He was out of his mind. He was not in his right mind. Let me spell that out. That means that I'm doing something, but I don't know the wrongfulness of what I'm doing because I'm out of touch with reality. That's what insanity is.
Now, there he goes with the insanity defense. He's saying that his client is out of his mind and I'm doing something that I don't know what I'm doing. So basically, he's inferring that Rodney Hinton actually did this. But once again, why would you even say that if you're planning a defense, right? He's giving away all of his cards. He's laying all of his cards right on the table.
You can be insane and still present like a physically normal person, and you won't know that that person is insane, but for their actions and but for an evaluation of their brain. This man had a diagnosed, documented mental illness that is recognized by healthcare providers, and he's receiving medication for the mental diagnoses. That constitutes a defect at this point.
All right, so let's stop right there. So he's going with the mental health narrative, but also the insanity defense of watching his son being killed. So which one is it? You know, is it mental health or is it that? Now, mind you, nobody has ever claimed that for Rodney Hinton. Even the police said that they didn't know of any documentation of mental health. Now, they may, of course, be trying to hide that for their purposes, but the mental health angle is very dangerous, and I'm going to tell you why after this video.
This is going to be not guilty by reason of insanity?
Potentially, yes. That's basically from what I've seen so far, and I haven't gotten all of the evidence. Really, I haven't gotten any evidence from the government. I've got it from my investigator. But from what I've seen so far, this is what it appears to be. Yes.
Okay.
He said, based on what I've seen so far, but he said he hasn't got any evidence from the government, but I've gotten it from my investigator. So what have you seen? He said, I haven't got any information. So based on what he's seen, which is nothing, he's going to say that the brother was insane at the time.
I want to back up on something that you initially said. You said unjustifiably killed. His son was unjustifiably killed. People would take issue with that as well. And that is going to be something that we're going to be looking at because there is 6 seconds of very shaky video.
Right.
So what is your contention there?
When I say unjustifiably killed, I'm speaking through the lens and eyes of my client.
Okay.
So in his mind, when he sees the video and he sees his son being killed, he thinks it's unjustifiable. It's horrific. It's tragic. Do you know what it's like?
So right there, he's telling the news reporter and basically the world what his client is thinking through his mind and his eyes. But later on during the interview, he's going to infer or insinuate that Rodney Hinton Jr. has not been talking to him. And so I don't know how he can say what the man is thinking if the man is not verbalizing any of his ideas or any of his mind frame with you. That's kind of, once again, this whole thing is kind of, out of order, if you ask me.
To see your son or daughter being killed?
No, thank God I don't.
Your bloodline? I know you don't. I didn't mean to offend you when I said that. I have a son. If I saw my son being killed by somebody, I don't know how I would behave. And I don't have a mental history. Well, some might argue that I do, but I don't. So my point is that type of event would trigger a normal person, let alone a person with a history of mental illness.
Can you walk?
All right. And so that right there, he said, well, I don't have a mental history of health. Well, some may say I do. Like, why would they say that? That's something that you don't just throw in when you're talking about defending a man who's on a capital murder case.
Walk me through that a little bit more, taking into account what the family has said in your investigation as to what happened at that point. So he watched the video. He had to be driven home because he was so distraught. He was taken back to wherever that was, wherever they watched the tape.
To get his vehicle.
To get his vehicle.
Correct.
And then at that point, did he go straight over to UC?
He's going home.
He was going home.
Which would take you that route.
Okay. So he was going home, but on the way home is when he took a detour and went to UC.
No, that is not a detour.
Okay, what was it?
That's on the way home.
Okay, so he's driving on the way home past UC.
Correct.
And what happens?
There's a claim that when he was on Martin Luther King Drive, he stopped his car and he accelerated and struck a police officer, or Hamilton County deputy sheriff. That's the claim, and that's what the video depicts.
Wait a minute. So basically, he's talking about that's the claim, and that's what the video depicts. Now, have you even seen the video? That's what I'm saying. And where is this video? He said he hasn't gotten any information from the prosecution. So what is he going off of? Hearsay? If he hasn't seen the video. And so that's another dangerous thing, because he's insinuating that, once again, Rodney Hinton did this. But even them asking the question, well, we double check or triple check to see if he was the person driving the vehicle, which makes me to believe, or a reasonable person would say, well, how many people were in the vehicle? As we've heard before, there was a lady who was driving the vehicle. But let's continue.
And tell me more about that investigation, your side and what the family says and what he says about that.
The family doesn't know what happened then because they were not with him.
Wait a minute. Now, y'all remember, and you can go back and look at some of the other videos and some of the news articles. They said when he left and picked up his car, his family followed him. They followed him. Now, this attorney said he wasn't with them, the same man who said at the beginning that he left and nobody heard from him until the accident. But if you go look at previous articles, they said he left, came back, went home. His family drove him home to get his car. Then his family drove off and they were following him at the time of this. So these are two ambiguous statements that have been made, which really got me thinking that is definitely something askew with this whole situation. I'm talking about the prosecution, the police, the lawyers, even his lawyers. I don't know what in the world is going on, but if you just really think and deep dive into the things that has been said and the things that are being saying now, you will see a lot of inconsistencies with the story, and people telling something once and the other person telling something. And, this is a whole debacle of, conflicting of information.
So, but based on the information that I have, that is a claim that is made by the government. Now, have I verified?
Based on the information that he has, that is a claim made by the government. He didn't say the information he has proves that. He said that is their claim. So why are you even going or following that chain of thought?
Verified for a fact that has actually happened? No, because I haven't seen all of the discovery. But based on what I've seen, that is the claim.
Now, you said you haven't seen all of the discovery, but a while ago you said you seen they gave you none of it. So which one is it? And then once again, it's based on, just listen to him.
Okay.
What I do know is his state of mind, based on speaking to family members and based on speaking to him.
And you've talked to him since?
I've tried to.
Based on speaking to him. And the lady said, you talked to him since. He said, I tried to. Which one is it? Did you talk to him or not?
Does he talk?
I can't
without
disclose,
giving us any information.
I would be giving you attorney-client privilege.
Okay.
Not really. If you say he talks to me, that's not giving attorney-client privilege. If you tell them what he said, now that is attorney-client privilege. But you already insinuated that you tried to talk to him, meaning that he doesn't want to talk, or he is not talking.
When not guilty by reason of insanity or competence is an issue for me to discuss whether or not I believe he was competent. I'm not going to get into that.
Okay. Now, let me just say, this conversation was about an hour long. And if you're sitting at home and you're thinking the question, I probably asked that one. So it's coming up. Okay. Coming up at 6, he's going to address dozens of sheriff deputies that were in Hinton's court hearing and his client's current mental state. And also whether or not the people out in the community can swallow the pill of not guilty by reason of insanity.
All right. So you heard the newscaster say whether people in the community can swallow the pill of not guilty by reason of insanity. Basically, he is saying, without any information, based on some claims and based on, what the prosecution said that the video said, and, he did this, well, he was out of his mind. And so what this basically does is refute any disclosure that he actually did this. Any evidence, like there's no evidence, there's no video, there's no eyewitnesses. Where are the eyewitnesses that saw him getting out of the car? Where's the police body cam footage of them trying to save him or whatever? Where are all, the people who are right by the University of Cincinnati when a graduation or whatever it was supposed to be happening? And that's not even, the worst part. The worst part is, once again, saying that the brother has documented mental health issues. And you know why? Because he is in jail accused of taking a law enforcement officer around a lot of law enforcement officers. The only thing that they have to say is, well, he had mental health problems. We just came to a cell and we found him hanging from a sheet. Oh yeah, well, we just came to a cell and he swallowed a whole bunch of aspirin. We just came to a cell and he swallowed a razor that we gave him to cut his hair. That is the danger when you start speaking that narrative out loud. Because soon as something happened to him, and Lord knows I pray it doesn't, that is the only thing they have to say. Well, he had mental health issues. He's insane. His lawyer said he was insane. He's out of his mind. And so that is the claim. And once again, y'all tell me. Now, I've heard Johnny Cochran speak on cases, give news press, but he ain't telling his strategy. He ain't telling information. He was savvy, and most lawyers are not going to give you any, just any inkling of what they are planning to use for the defense. And so, once again, shout out to Mr. Bennett. I don't know Mr. Bennett personally. I thank him for representing our brother. I haven't passed the bar, so maybe I'm out of line with my train of thought. I don't know, but it's just something that I find very unnecessary to be having a press conference like that. Be having a news or a one-on-one inside the edition expose. Like, these things are done after the trial. You know what I'm saying? After the trial, then you have a one-on-one with investigative reporters and things like this. You don't do this right before the indictment. Like, that is the same suit that he had during the indictment. And actually, looking at the suit, I had to be honest. He looks a little disheveled. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to put a bad bone on the brother, but he doesn't, look too sharp. With his dress and his shirt all flapped to the side. If you defending a capital murder, you supposed to be sharp, like you supposed to be on your game. But once again, shout out to the brother. But I just don't understand that interview. Yeah, and y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, because this is definitely something that I'm just amazed at. Like, why would you get on national TV and say he was out of his mind? He didn't know what he was doing. He has documented mental health issues, and based on the claims that the government gave me, which I haven't seen, but I haven't seen none of it, but I haven't seen all of all of those things are questionable. Now, that's in my humble opinion, but I think that news conference should have never happened, in my opinion. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. I thank y'all for watching the video, liking, sharing, subscribing, and as usual, peace and blessings.